Steve, thank you so much for taking a few minutes this morning to chat with us. We really appreciate it. Quick little bio on Steve. He was an officer in the United States Marine Corps. Went on to Boston University, got his MBA after that. Spent a career in sales working for huge companies like GE, McKesson, Abbott Labs, all big guys, and now is the National Director of Sales Training at Siemens Healthineers. Something I'm really excited to talk to you about is also his time as an entrepreneur. Spent a long time working for himself as well, in between there, building a product for the tennis industry. So Steve, thank you so much again for chatting with me this morning.
Oh, no, looking forward to it. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell everyone just a little bit about your military career, if you're okay with that?
Absolutely. It's something I'm very proud of, and something I love talking about, because it was such an instrumental part of my development, of my maturity, my experience, and everything that I learned from the Marine Corps in my time. And I could probably say from all of us who joined one of the branches of the military, the ability to be able to learn from that experience and to be able to take that experience and that knowledge into a commercial or a civilian position. I was a logistics officer, went through the basic school there, was assigned with 10th Marines Regiment there, working with them. Did go to Desert Storm. I was the executive officer of 2nd FSSG during that time there. And then after about 5 years, retired and moved into the civilian community. What I will tell you for all the listeners here is that the idea of being part of the military, that a spirit of corps that we have as Marines, that's one of those things that as you think about your development and your transition out into the civilian world, that is something that is very important, and one that you really want to build off on as you're talking and having those interviews with prospective employers.
Did you know you wanted to get into sales after getting out of the Marine Corps, or what brought you to that industry?
And I think that's one of the things I really would love to say to the audience here that's going out there. There's a lot of great opportunities in sales that maybe you feel like, because of the current MOS, the job that you had, maybe an engineer, maybe a truck driver, maybe even in artillery or infantry. I think one of the misconceptions that maybe the military has about sales is that's really the foundation as your first step into growing into other businesses or other departments within those organizations. So don't think of sales as just the thing you're only going to do for the rest of your life, but that's a great one to kind of get into, to learn the understanding of the dynamics of the business, how it works. In sales, you are the revenue generating portions of that company. You're the one that keeps the lights on. And so what I would ask all of you as you think about transitioning out, don't assume just because you don't have any sales experience that you can't be able to use those skill sets, that passion, that commitment, that drive, that willing to be successment. Don't lose sight of that skill set there you have can transition into that entry-level job in sales. Because once you show that commitment, that passion, that drive, and that success you have in sales, other parts of the departments of that company will be able to work. I started out in sales for a handful of years, and then I went into operations. But it's that opportunity to get in at that entry level that really gives you the idea to have the scope and knowledge of what that company's all about. No That's different cool. than, but just if I can just say one more thing about that, is that the sales is almost like going through basic. It really is. I mean, if you can get into sales, it's the basic learning, everything you need to know. And it's a great opportunity, and one that I was a little hesitant to, but had some great guidance and counsel from some of my other Marines to say, this might not be a bad thing for you to do.
That's great. That's great advice. I love the part you said about the revenue generation too, because so many people have these stereotypes of sales. They're scared of it. They think of that used car salesman, and they just automatically, oh no, I don't want to be a sales rep, or I can't sell. But I just found that people in the military community are just naturally trained for, that training you said in basic is just perfect transition to that sales world.
Oh, it is. And I think, one of the things that I stress now as a trainer, when I go out and I interview and I get an opportunity to talk to some new people is that, sales is one of those things, again, is where people want you to be successful. People want you to succeed. You having the opportunity to do that, you are the backbone. You are the one that keeps the lights on. And they're so dependent on that. And the skill sets that you learn, especially in the Marine Corps for me, you know, it's a great line that we learned, and I don't know what the other branches have it, but it was always field expedient. You know, we don't count canteen caps. I mean, our job out there is to go out there and sell and be engaging and be positive. And that's exactly what all of us did in the military. We never were by ourselves. We never
Right.
were, hey, listen, I mean, it was that spirit of core, as I mentioned before, is working together, being engaged with each other, and supporting everybody's efforts and being successful. And that's what really sales is about.
And also, there's no better way to get noticed too in civilian America. When you're bringing in money for that company, and as you said, keeping the lights on, and people pay attention. It's not a support role. This is the most important position in any firm.
Right. And I think if I could just build off on that one more kind of part that maybe I didn't say as clearly as I'd like to is, you know, one of the things that it's a little different than in the military is that, you know, when I became a logistics officer, that was pretty much the only job I was going to have. And in the next 20 years in the Marine Corps, if I'd stayed in that long, I would really be a logistics officer, and that would be kind of kept there. I think the civilian world gives you the chance to maybe go in maybe as sales, but once you go in there and get your foot in the door, the opportunities for you to do anything that you want to or what you want to line up to is great. So one of the things that people get in the misconception is on sales too, is that once you get in sales, you're stuck in there forever. And if you looked at my resume, you would see where not only was I in sales, but I was in operations, I was in marketing, and now I'm in training. So, you know, that's one more thing to think about too, is you're not going to be stuck there in that role if you're successful. And that's what everybody wants you to be as well.
Absolutely. And then every industry needs sales. You know, pick something you're passionate about, whether that be sports or music or entertainment, and go sell for those companies, and you'll combine two loves of yours, you know?
Absolutely.
That's good. So something I feel goes hand in hand with sales is being your own boss. And I love the fact that you started a venture for a number of years. And can you share that experience with everyone and why you did that, and tell a little bit about the product?
Sure. So on the side, I have a company called Emerson Tennis for my name. We build a tennis tool, for a better term, a teaching aid for handicapped children to be able to help them learn how to play tennis. We do use it for children as well. But the place where we've seen it being very successful is with children. We sponsor the Special Olympics here in Virginia too, to support that. What I would say from my military background was, again, and I think that everyone that's probably listening to this that has that military background has had to try to make do with what they had. They were in a situation where, again, hey, they didn't have all the tools they needed, but again, field expedient. What can I do with what I have right now to be able to accomplish the mission? And so my mission was, when I looked at the need, in this case, you were talking earlier about my daughter. She wanted to learn to play tennis. I couldn't afford the cost of it. I didn't have the resources to buy the 100 tennis balls and the indoor tennis court. So I had to come up with a field expedient way to be able to teach my daughter how to play tennis. And so I created the Servo Wand, and that Servo Wand was my field expedient approach to helping her appreciate and learn the skill sets needed to be a successful tennis player. And she's done very well. All my children play. But what I would say to all those that are listening here is, don't lose sight of the fact that the skill sets that you learn in the military are ubiquitous. I mean, they're all out there. Every time you turn around and look, there's something that your skill sets you can use to make yourself not only viable to an employer, but gets that self-confidence in yourself. And so look around, find things that are out there. I mean, this is just a great time in your experience and knowledge to be able to find things that you can do, and don't be afraid to do it. I can tell you from my experience, I got my door slammed in my face. I got rejections every single time, but it is that will to want to be successful and knowing that you're doing the right thing. And I think that's the other thing I would say to it is, I never lost sight, and don't ever lose sight of the fact that every one of you that's listening to this, don't lose the sight on doing what's right, doing what's in your heart, doing what you know needs to get done, and have that passion with the control passion of knowing that everything that you do, as long as you're doing it with the right way, people are going to see, people are going to notice, and more importantly, people and employers are going to appreciate.
a lot of the veterans we talk to, some of them just have that itch to say, gosh, I'd love to be my own boss, and I'd love to steer them towards a career in entrepreneurship. Like you did, you found a problem, you solved it. And the thing I like too about that career is you're wearing all the hats. You're doing everything,
Right.
Which I'm sure makes you even more well-rounded.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, though, kind of in balancing that, though, is you can align yourself with other people with other skill sets. I mean, there are, in my way that I look at it, is there's a, like you said before, there's a lot of hats. You don't have to make the hat; you just have to be able to wear it. And so, I have one of the greatest stories that I had in my military background as a young officer. And just on a side note here, all the staff NCOs that are on this, you guys are really the backbone of the Marine Corps and all the military branches. And I just can't tell you that skill set that you learn down there. Don't lose sight of that, because that is an incredible skill set that you were able to have and build off on, that those employers need to know. But I had one of the most incredible gunnery sergeants that I've ever met. I still think about him all the time. And his job was simply this: is I want you to lead. You can lead, but let me help you lead. And I never forget that, is that you'll always be in the front, but I'll always be behind you. And as long as we work together, and I think that was a great thing. So as those entrepreneur spirits that you have, every single one of you that are out there that have that, don't lose sight of the fact that it's not about having to do it alone. It just has to be the right people to be able to support you. And I learned that as well. So that entrepreneur spirit isn't just about you doing everything. It's you find the right people to help you get everything done.
I want to change gears a little bit now, and something I'm sure you are extremely good at, which is networking. Talk about the importance of, especially a young veteran coming out, how important it is you're coming into the civilian world. Maybe you don't know a lot of people to communicate, to network with people to help your career.
Great question. I think, and again, this is, just one person's view on this. I think one of the misconceptions that maybe some of the things that I had when I was young was you have to network in that industry. You have to find the network into that industry. And networking is, again, it's really an opportunity for you, and it's always out there for you. If you go to church, networking with some of the people there, they may not even be in the industry, but the world right now, everybody seems to know everybody. It's that whole 6 degrees of separation. So don't limit yourself in networking just for a company that you want to work for. One of the things that, and different people have different opinions on this, but as far as LinkedIn's concerned, if you want to work, for example, if you want to work for Abbott, networking or trying to using LinkedIn to network with those people probably isn't as a good of opportunity for you than while you're out in the real world meeting people. Work on your skills of conversation skills, and those are so important. You don't have to, even when you're standing in the grocery store, ask 2 questions to the checkout counter. Hey, how are you doing today? What's the thing going on? Build your networking skills. Everybody wants to get network, but no one knows how to have the conversation to have the networking. So use every opportunity you have to be a good person, to be kind, and just ask someone how the day is. And what happens is you learn the rhythm of that. And then when you do have the opportunity to have networking with maybe, or in your interviews, you're not now nervous about it or afraid, because you've been doing it the whole time. So work on those skill sets in networking, and use the opportunity of people around you to learn more about them. The second thing I would do is there are a lot of employment agencies that are out there. Reach out to those employment agencies, or reach out to HR people and say, what do I need to do to improve? What do I need? Because here's the thing that we all have to agree with, especially coming out of the military, is you have a tremendous amount of skills and knowledges, but you don't probably have the ability to weave within the fabric of the company those skill sets. So you need to ask them, where can I go with these skill sets? What can I do to be more engaging? And then the final thing I do is this: there are those job fairs that are out there. Even if there are jobs that you don't want. When I was young, when I did this, I tell this to most of the kids or new people that I work with, is go to job fairs and practice your interviewing skills with someone that maybe you don't want to work with. Don't wait in line for this one job here when there's openings here, because it's all about practicing. the military background that we have, man, I mean, the Marine Corps, we practice every single day. Every single day we practice. And that's one of the things that doesn't hurt. No one will ever get upset if you say, "Hi, how are you doing today?"
Right. I love it. That's really good. I've never heard that that advice you have about talking to somebody in the grocery store. And then, you know what I love about it is it's like you never know what's going to turn into. You don't know who knows who knows, you know?
Right. And I think that's what people, if you go in with the idea sometimes that if you go in with the idea of not looking for a job, but
Right.
just being nice, because the first thing people will say if you have a nice conversation was, "Hey, that's a nice guy. I really appreciate him asking."
Right.
It's not going to be, "Hey, that guy was looking for a job." I wrote a great book, The Analogy of Sales, and I'll send it to you. I'll give you a copy of it. But there's a thing there's an analogy I have on being a fireman. And just real briefly here is the moral of the story is that, hey, if you have a fire and the fireman walks in, he knows what he needs to do. You know, you don't have to have any small child. You know, he knows what he has to do. So, you know, if you're going in there as a fireman, you know what your job is, and that's to get the thing done. And people are built for that. Hey, if I see a fireman walking in, there must be a fire. If you go in there to the grocery store and you talk to the clerk a little bit or somebody in line to say how it's going, they don't know who you are. You could be a fireman, you could be a policeman, whatever. All they know is that you're a nice person that's interested in what their day is.
So, that's great. It's sort of like put this thing, next time you're in line, put this down, avoid this thing, and just be a human, you know?
I know. I mean, and I think that's one of those things that you just, you know, I mean, you just have to work on. And so, and even if you want to, one more thing I'll leave you at least on that discussion there as far as the idea of being on kind of networking stuff is work while you're driving. Turn off the radio. And this is one of the things that I do in sales is 6 times a day, I practice my cold calling techniques. I have 5 questions. And it's all about practicing and getting the rhythm, because once you get comfortable with it, and here's the last thing real quick is that, you know, sales, going back to that real quick, is you know, we're no different than musicians. We're no different than, you know, actors. You have a role, and you have to practice and practice and practice, and being practiced, you know, practicing is not a bad thing to do.
Yeah. So I like that about when you're in the car to practice. I mean, you could listen to podcasts, you know, or in your field. You could download YouTube videos to your phone and listen to the audio of them. There's so much free, valuable information to make you more effective at your craft. You know?
Absolutely. And regardless of what you do, I think that
was awesome. Yeah. Steve, this was a ton of information. I can't thank you enough. Would it be okay if I include your LinkedIn profile in the bottom in case anyone wants to reach out to you?
Yep. And if anybody's interested, you know, for your group here, I'd be more than happy to offer up my sales book. So
that would be awesome.
If anybody wants to just click on it, I'd be more than happy to send it. It's an ebook. I can send it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, send me the link and I'll put it in the description of the video. But thank you so much. This was really valuable, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Hey, listen, anything I can do to help.